So it's like Vaishnavas appear in this world, and when they appear, most of the souls around, they don't know what happened, because it looks like quite similar to any other birth in this world. From external point of view, you cannot see. Inside, it's something very different. The one takes birth just due to his karma, and others, they take birth out of compassion. So, but during the life, their love for Radha and Krishna is like spreading, and everyone gets so much attraction to the souls. And when they disappear, they leave everyone crying behind. Like we were just singing this beautiful song of Haridasa Thakura. And he's saying, you know, I lost the company of so many wonderful souls. You know, when most of us were in this very body, and Srila Sridhar Maharaj was on earth here. But what did we do? Huh? You know, I went to school. Why? You know, it's huh? What? Yeah. You know, it's like, it's a tragedy that, and at least we can feel some pain for that. And this is like a transformational experience. So that's why Haridasa Thakura say, I don't know if I should put my hand on a stone, if I should jump in fire, because it would be much less pain. That's what I feel. There was the door to eternity, to the eternal seva. It was so tangible here. Now I'm alone again in a huge ocean of material existence. And I'm just longing, where can I be again? When that moment will come. Sai Sabas Sangira Sangha Ye Koila Vilash, where we can sit together with bhaktas and speak about Radha and Krishna, because then the experience of home, of the Nitya Dham, is exactly tangible and experienceable right now. So, and today is the disappearance day of our Haridasa Thakura. I think it's the 10th or 11th chapter of Antya Leela. 11, huh? Where it's very intensely described. And if one reads this chapter, it's like the heart is like exploding when one is reading this verse of Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami. And I always knew this is a perfect death. This is, you know, how one day I want to live like this. It's very wonderful. And just putting such a soul and an eternal associate of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the center here of this Sangha and here of this heart, then suddenly a mysterious experience is happening. Krishna is saying, Naham tishtami vaikunte. I'm not living in Vaikuntha, yoginam hrideshava. I'm not living in the hearts of the yogis. But oh Narad, I mostly live Sayat Gayanti Mat Bhakta, where my bhaktas are coming together and speak about me. I'm living there mostly. I'm very alive there. So we will invite today Haridasa Thakura in the assembly. and we invite in our heart. And we know when these bhaktas are there, then there is like, sometimes you can buy some toothpaste and some gift is added, in a shop. You can edit some gift. So if you have the eternal associate of Mahaprabhu, then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is running behind, is also included. And you have Gauranga, then some other persons are running, Radha and Krishna themselves. So it's like a whole package included. Thank you, Maharaj, to invite our Haridasa Thakura today.
Om Jnanatimidandasya Gyananjana-shalakaya Chakshurumilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Namashristam Manumapi Satchiputram Atra Swarupam Rupam Tasya Grajamuru Matarim Goshtavatim Radha Kundam Girivaram Maho Radhika Madhavasam Prapto Yasya Pratitha Gripaya Shri Gurum Tannatasmi Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Nikhila Shruti Mole Ratnamala Diti Nirajita Badapankajanta Aji Mukta Kulair Pasyamanam Parithastam Harinam Samshrayami Anaripita Charim Chirat Karunayavatirna Kalu Chamar Paitam Munnatos Valarasam Savakti Sriyam Hari Purata Sundara Dyuti Kadamba Sandipita Sada Hridaye Khandare Spurato Vasachinandana Janulambita Bhujo Kanakavadato Sankirtanai Kapitaro Kamalaya Takshu Vishwambaro Dwijabaro Jugadharma Palo Vande Jagat Priyakaro Karunavataru Ladine Shakti Sarupaya Gauranga Suridaya Cha Bhakta Shakti Pradhanaya Gadadhara Namostute He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Radhe Vrindavanadeshe Karunamrita Vahini Kripaya Nijapadaja Dasyanayam Pradiyatam Bhaktya Vihina Aparadha Lakshay Shirta Shakamadi Tarangamadi Kripa Mayitvam Sharanam Prapanam Brinde Namaste Charanarvindam Brinde Namaste Charanarvindam Sri Sachinandan Gaur Hari Ki Jai Sri Harinam Prabhu Ki Jai Shri Shri Gaur Gadadhar Ji Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Govinda Ji Ki Jai Tirobhag Mahotsav Titya Srila Haridasa Thakura Ki Jai Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Gaur Premanand Hari Hari Gaur. So, good morning to all. Pranam. Thank you so much, Krishna Chandra Prabhu, for your Pakram, your introductory welcoming words of appreciation of what's taking place today. As paradoxical as it may sound, we are celebrating death today, and a death perfectly embraced, so to say, which means a life perfectly lived, which translates as a death perfectly embraced. That's the interconnection. I always like to say that death put life in context. If you take death out of the equation, you are not having the full picture of what life is about, so to say. When you put death into the scale, it brings the way you live your life into proper sanity, so to say. You live your life in a sober way. So it's a very interesting idea. We celebrate that. And we have it too about, and not those only this one, but every time a great personality leaves this mortal plane, so to say, we are organizing a celebration here. So that's the idea. Not death can be celebrated. There is a way to talk about death, which is probably the topic less people want to talk about. People want to talk about the least, like the famous section in the Mahabharata, in the lake of death, so to say. When Yudhishthira Maharaj received this crucial question, that what's the most astonishing thing you find in this world, and the life of his brothers depended on his answer, basically. And he said the most astonishing fact is that despite everything is dying around us, one thinks that won't happen to me. Or if you think it will happen, you say, but not now, not yet. Tomorrow, next weekend, in a year. No. You are 99 years old, no, not yet. Still there is time. So Yudhishthira Maharaj said that's the most astonishing thing I can see. Like how unwilling we are to acknowledge that aspect of life. So of course a transcendentalist, an aspiring bhakta, an aspiring mystic, wants to embrace reality in its fullness. As we talked the other day, when one is loving, there is place even for suffering, there is place even for having necessities, but all that will be glorious because that's happening in the context of love. So also when you are loving, there are so many forms of death that it's okay to have them. It's crucial to have them. And of course, we can talk about physical death, so to say, although, as we know, soul doesn't die. We will talk in terms of leaving the body. But for us to not be traumatized about the prospect of leaving this body, to go through that death, first we have to die in so many other levels. Remember when I was talking with Father Richard Rohr, Franciscan mystic, I had the fortune of meeting at the beginning of this year. He will describe to me, the question was, what's prayer? What's prayer? Well, so fasten your seatbelt for the reply. So you say, prayer is a training in death, he said. No, because every time you pray, you are dying, not physically, but to so many false conceptions, to so many to so many ideas of what you think you are, what you think you need, what you think God is. You have to die repeatedly to all those layers, one after another. So when you live a life of prayer, in that sense, when you live a life of constant death, when the moment of dying officially comes in terms of this body, you won't have a problem with that, because you have gone through so many deaths before. But for those of us who do not go through these daily deaths, when the moment of physical death comes, we will be terrified, because we are unfamiliar with what does it mean, with the letting go, with the giving up, with the acknowledging this is beyond my control, and I trust, and I'm safe, and I'm being cared. That's basically what Arjuna said to Krishna in the Gita in the beginning. representing us, when Krishna was encouraging Arjuna to fight and to confront, we could say, his attachments personified in these personalities, personified attachments. When Krishna say confront them, Arjuna say, no, I prefer to throw all my weapons and to be killed physically by them. But I cannot go through the death you are inviting me to go through. Because Krishna was inviting Arjuna to go through the death of a false self, so to say, of my false sense of identity. And Arjuna said, that's very difficult. I prefer to be just killed immediately physically. That type of death is way more easy. And of course, Krishna said, no, that's not the idea. First, we have to die, no, to this other dimension. So again, when we are celebrating a day like today, we are organizing a festival of death. No? We can call today's Tirobhav Mahotsav is a festival of death, celebrating death. That doesn't sound too mainstream, too popular. But we are celebrating the life of, whether we are talking about the Nitya Siddha or Sadhana Siddha, as we talk these days, how those personalities went through, or even if they're Nitya Siddha, represented certain stages of different deaths through life, and how gloriously they transitioned after leaving their body. So one of those personalities is Srila Haridasa Thakura, that we are celebrating today. Very, very crucial figure in our tradition, Namacharya, Srila Haridasa Thakura. Our tradition, in one sense, revolves around Nam. No? For us, the name is what the name is not for us. Now, there's this beautiful verse quoted by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Things come from the Adi Purana. Nanama Sridisam Gyanam, Nanama Sadrisam Vratam, Nanama Sradisam Palam, Nanama Sadrisam Gyanam, Nanama Sadrisastyago, Nanama Sradisasama, Nanama Sadrisam Punyam, Nanama Sadrishrigati, Namaiva Paramamuktir, Namaiva Paramagatir, Namaiva Paramashantir, Namaiva Paramastitihi, Namaiva Paramabhaktir, Namaiva Paramashantir, Namaiva Paramasmritihi. Namaiva Paramastitihi, Namaiva Paramanjantor, Namaiva Pravurevacha, Namaiva Kananam Jantar, Namaiva Paramoguru. Sorry to say so many times the word Nam. Sorry? If I'm not mistaken, it's Adi Purana. And there it is saying there is no higher knowledge than the name, no higher renunciation, no higher action, no higher meditation, no higher charity, no higher offering, no higher love. The name is the Supreme Guru, the name is the Supreme Love, the name is the Supreme everything. No? So my point is, for us, the name is pretty important. Let's put it that way. So if the name is so crucial for us in Mahaprabhu's tradition, if someone is known as the Nam Acharya, then that person will be equally important. If our tradition revolves around the name of God, if someone is labeled officially as the Acharya of the name, that who teaches by example how to embrace the name, we'll put that person in a special part of our heart altar, so to say. And that person is Haridasa Thakura, interestingly. So we are celebrating his Tirobhav Mahotsav. We are celebrating his Disappearance Day. And as Krishna Chandra Prabhu mentioned, interestingly, his disappearance is described in a whole chapter of the Chaitanya Charitamrita. We generally do not find that detailed description of someone's passing away as it is done with Haridasa Thakura. Whole chapter, chapter 11 of the Antilila of Chaitanya Charitamrita. Whole chapter depicting how Haridasa Thakura passed away. So again, that must take our attention. For some reason, the whole chapter is dedicated to this. And for some reason, that's included in our Vaishnava calendar as part of all the celebration we have been having day after day after day. So, but before, if you give me permission, before going to the disappearance lila in itself, I'd like to share a few words of the background of that. of Haridasa Thakura, who was Haridasa Thakura, and how Haridasa Thakura became Haridasa Thakura, so to say. So Haridasa Thakura is connected to Brahma in our tradition. Sometimes he's called Brahma Haridas. So he's Brahma. Interesting. The first guru of our Sampradaya, basically. Krishna, Brahma, Mattva, Gaudiya Sampradaya. And this is somehow connected to something we talked last year. Remember we were sharing, for those who are here, we were somehow studying the Brahma Stuti, or the prayers of Brahma after what's known as Brahma Vimohan Lila. The pastime, the Lila where Krishna, where Brahma kidnaps or thinks that he kidnaps Krishna's calves and friends, and eventually he has a very unique revelation, and all these calves and friends appears as Bhagavan personified, multiple Narayans, and Brahma's foreheads are like spinning like crazy. And eventually Brahma falls at the feet of Krishna and offers beautiful prayers, whole chapter 14 of the 10th canto, Brahma Stuti. So Brahma himself in that section, in one of his prayers, he considers, I offended you. I offended your lila, I offended your form, I offended your associates. Why? Because when I saw your form as a cowherd having picnic with your friends, I thought, what's this? This cannot be God. This cannot be the Krishna I saw at the beginning of creation. It's too informal. God shouldn't be in a picnic. No, God should be eating a royal table with servants and whatever. And here he's eating directly from hand, left hand, not right. His friends are tasting what they have, and they're putting that into the mouth of Krishna. They are giving Krishna their remnants. Brahma was like, this cannot be my God. This is an imposter. So he offended Krishna's form by considering this is not the real one. He offended his associates by thinking, who are these ordinary cowherd boys? And he offended the Lila because somehow he interrupted, or he tried to interrupt the flow of the picnic and kidnapping. So it is said that Brahma considered, okay, I engage myself in Lila Aparad, Rupa Aparad, Parikar Aparad. But it is said that he did not engage in Nama Aparad. So that gives some hope to Brahma. Okay, there is some portal. He didn't offend the name, basically. So somehow the name stayed with Brahma. And quite a lot, as we will see. He became the Namacharya. So you can see how generous the name is. Even if you offend some other directions, how much the name stays with you. And if you embrace it, you can become a Haridasa Thakura somehow. So of course, as we know, Brahma is known as Vidhi. Vidhi means someone who follows every rule, every regulation very paka, as they will say in India. No? How to translate that how to say paka in German? In German. Also proper?
And then regelconform.
Okay. I understood that.
Sauber.
Like, yeah, there's no translation. It's paka. You have to enter into the mood of paka. But yeah, he did everything very nicely. So he had a very high birth as Brahma. He has the highest possible birth in the universe. He followed every rule very nicely. But he engaged in some form of offense. So he was born then as an outcast in Gaur Lila. Not as a highest possible birth, but Namacharya. Again, the name stayed with him in that situation. So Brahma took shelter, as Hari does, in the name after his mischief, so to say. Something to add?
Just a little thing. Many Vaishnavas say it's not the result of an aparat, of a mistake, that he had to take birth, but he realized, standing before Krishna, Why couldn't I recognize you? Because I thought of having a position. I thought I am someone. And if you're standing on a podest, if you're like, this is called pride, you will be unable to really see. And he prayed to Krishna, please, when you come next time, can I be part again? Krishna, yes. I said, but I want a blessing. Next time, I don't want a podest. I don't want any position at all. You know, really, then I can relish your beauty. It was very interesting. One can go to temples, and usually the president and the managers, they're the big persons, they're not very happy because they're busy. But in the back, there's a blissful person, you know, no position, and just making flower garlands for the Lord. Or in the kitchen somewhere, they're the most blissful person. So this is what Brahma prayed. Next time, I want to relish you. I want to serve you. And I don't want to be deviated by any VIP post. So it's like,
don't make me a manager again.
No,
please. That's a good prayer. Yeah, I can relate to that one. So yeah, in connection to what Krishna Chandra Prabhu mentioned, there is something, and since we yesterday celebrated Bhaktivinoda Thakur's appearance, and we mentioned some of his contributions as the Navadvip Dham Mahatmya, there's one section there that I want to share for a minute, which shows a little bit this background. It's chapter 5, starting from verse 128, just in case you then want to go there. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur mentions Navadvip Dham Mahatmya. Yeah. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur mentions that after the Brahma Stuti, after Brahma offered his prayers, as we studied last year, Brahma went to Antardvip, which is one of the 9 islands in Navadvip. He started to beg for the mercy of Krishna. As Mahaprabhu, somehow he received some insight that Gaur Lila is coming in a few thousand years, but for Brahma it's just like, it's coming. So he lamented, saying, and I will share with you what Brahma said. If I had taken birth as a cowherd boy, I would have easily obtained service to Sri Krishna. I did not have the great fortune to relish the rasa of those pastimes. But now I will not have any wicked mentality towards Sri Gaur, toward Mahaprabhu. As we mentioned, he had not the proper perspective toward Krishna, so now he's saying, I won't repeat the same mistake again toward him as Mahaprabhu. So he's lamenting. Interestingly, he's indirectly hinting at what we pointed last year, which is Brahma had an affinity for Sakya Rasa. And now he's saying here, if I had taken birth a cowherd boy, so he's mentioned that. So anyhow, it is said that after saying this, Brahma started to meditate and to engage in tapasya, trying to please Mahaprabhu in Antardvip. So eventually Mahaprabhu appeared to Brahma in Antardvip. At that time, like a trailer of his actual appearance. And he said, I'm very pleased with your tapasya, Brahma. So ask me whatever you want. Any blessings I will give you. And Brahma fainted. That was his reply. By having Gaur Darshan, he passed out basically. So it is said that Mahaprabhu, according to Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Mahaprabhu put his foot on Brahma's head. So with that, he's already
safe.
Yeah. But there will be a little more unfolding, as we will see. No? But he put the foot there, Brahma awakened, and so Mahaprabhu's foot here, receiving so much insight, so much revelation, so much infusion, of devotional life into his heart by that touch. And Brahma, inspired, began to offer prayers to Mahaprabhu. Another Brahma Stuti, we could say. An extension, an appendix of the Brahma Stuti of the Bhagavatam. So let me share a few parts of those prayers by Brahma after receiving this mercy of Mahaprabhu, this confirmation. Remember, he before prayed, allow me, give me another chance, I won't do the same mistake. And now Mahaprabhu is like confirming that. So Brahma says, I am very low and wretched. Being controlled by pride, I committed offenses at your lotus feet. And as a result, I am absorbed in mundane enjoyment. So as Krishna Chandra said, we may not say he offended, but in his own humility, he feels, I offended. The first half of my life has passed, Rama says. And now I'm most anxious about how the second half will pass. My mind is disturbed by many difficulties because of being indifferent toward you. My only prayer at your feet is that I may join you as your associate in your manifest pastimes. May I attain such a birth that my conceit, you mentioned, in being the creator will be removed, that I may remain with you the whole time, and that I may glorify you. So he presented this prayer with these three, not conditions, but three requests, three anchoring, in the context of appearing as his associate. May I attain such a birth that my pride of being a temple manager, so to say, temple president, not temple president, but universe president, may be removed. May I stay with you the whole time. May I have your daily company, and may I glorify you. So Mahaprabhu is hearing this prayer and saying, replying, Tatashtu. Basically means, Amen. So be it. That's the meaning of these two words. Our Amen is Tatashtu, which means so be it. So he bestows upon Brahma his desired blessing. And he predicts, he replies, he will give further clarification about how his birth will take place. So he will, let me read a few lines in that connection, how Mahaprabhu replies to Brahma. You will always think of yourself as low and fallen. In connection to before that he said you will be born as an outcast. So in that connection, you will think of yourself in this way. Your name will be Haridas, and you will be free from all pride. Imagine what does it mean, just to be born without pratishta from birth. I cannot imagine what does it mean. Being born without this desire for position. So you will be free from all pride as Haridas. Daily, 300,000 names of Hari will dance upon your tongue.
192 rounds.
Yeah, 3 lakhs sometimes called also. So Krishna will be dancing upon, chanting Harinam is not chanting Harinam, it's Krishna dancing upon your tongue. That's what's actually taking place. Your tongue became the stage and Krishna is performing Tandavan Nritya, so to say, or whatever dance he's performing there. So 3 lakhs, 192 rounds, you will be chanting on a daily basis. And then he even gives further description of his life. He will say, and at the time of leaving this world, you will have darshan of me. So imagine, in his previous life, he already knows how he will live his body in the next life. Mahaprabhu is clarifying the whole sequence. By virtue of this practice, at the end of the second half of your present birth, Brahma, you will attain this Sri Navadvipdham and you will be absorbed in eternal rasa. From today, you will attain the position of being my disciple, and later as Haridas, you will always serve me. So that's Mahaprabhu's reply to Brahma in Antardvip. Remember, after the Brahma Stuti, a few thousand years ago, a few blinks ago for Brahma. And after saying this, Sriman Mahaprabhu disappeared. No? Because he appeared as a manifestation, but he disappeared then. And again, Brahma fell to the ground unconscious. No? He fainted when Mahaprabhu appeared. He fainted when Mahaprabhu disappeared. Because you can imagine, what must be to see Krishna? And on top of that, what must be after seeing Krishna to stop seeing Krishna? Try to imagine. First to see him, it's too much. Faint. You faint. After seeing him, you stop seeing him. You have to faint again. Stronger than before. So this happened to Brahma here. So eventually he reawakened from this fainting, and realizing what just happened, he starts to cry in separation of Mahaprabhu, in the mood of Jayanilo Premadan somehow, no? Like separation. I lost that darshan of Gaur Hari. And he wept, Bhaktivinoda Thakur said, he wept for many days, Brahma, in separation. But eventually he returned to Brahma Lok to resume his duties as temple president there, universe manager, if you will, till the time came for him to manifest on earth as Haridasa Thakura in Gaur Lila. When Krishna came as Mahaprabhu, then Brahma made his appearance as Sri Thakur Haridas. So this was a little bit of a background, so we have more notion of what we will be talking about now, which is the disappearance day of Haridasa Thakur.
But then someone else took the position, or it was just vacant position?
When
He came here.
it was quick, according to Brahma Lok, that was a
So no one had to take.
Yeah, that was a weekend.
his
Brahma
position.
organized for a weekend for someone to cover up for him. And
Babaji, such questions also come to Babaji, and Babaji brings the example like, oh, you can compare that also with how is it here? Like the president is not always in the president house. He's always here and there. And still the president
he has his agents also representing him.
Don't have to be always there. He can go on holidays and it goes on.
So in this way, Brahma, we want to take it a Gaur Lila holiday. So we reached. Yes, sorry. So today we are celebrating the moment in which Brahma, we are celebrating in one sense today that Brahma attained his desired goal as Haridasa Thakur. No? Because remember, Brahma, if we go all the way back to the Brahma Vimohan Lila, we shared that last year. When Brahma saw Krishna, even before the Brahma Vimohan Lila, beginning of creation, it is described in the Bhagavatam that Brahma shook hands with Krishna, and he expressed his desire to relate to him as a friend. Of course, a few 100,000 years happened after that, more. The Brahma Vimohan Lila happened. Brahma had a darshan of what does it mean to be a friend of Krishna. he didn't pass the test fully at that moment. He became quite confused. But now at Haridasa Thakura, he's having the chance to attain his desired goal. So we are celebrating that also. Not only the Tirobab of Haridasa Thakura, but Brahma's attainment of his Sakya Rasa identity in Vrindavan. And eternally as Haridasa Thakura in Nityanavad. So before going to the chapter itself, a few words regarding Haridasa Thakura for those of you who are hearing about him for the first time. So we mentioned Haridasa Thakura was born as someone considered outcast in that social system of that time. In this case, he was a Muslim. He was a disciple of Advaita Acharya, that's described. He received initiation from Sri Advaita Prabhu. As we just read, he will chant 3 lakhs, but somehow he will have time also to preach the glories of the name. No? Sanatana Goswami glorifies Haridasa Thakura in one verse in Chaitanya Charitamrita, saying, some people preach but do not practice. Some people practice but do not preach. But you do both. And he starts to glorify Haridasa. You do achar and prachar. Achar and prachar. So somehow he had time to chant 192 rounds and share the glories of the name also. Sorry?
He doesn't know that he is Brahma.
In his verse of Haridasa Thakura. Yeah, that's not present in his awareness. And we will have this famous Lila when it is said that Maya Devi comes personified, trying to distract him from his chanting, and eventually, instead of him becoming a disciple of Maya, Maya becomes his disciple. Most of us are her disciple. But Haridasa Thakura created the opposite dynamics. And as we mentioned, when Haridasa Thakura will live in Jagannath Puri, he will live at the place, I don't know if you, for those who, if you had the chance of being there,
Siddhabakul.
there's a place called Siddhabakul, and that's where he will stay on a daily basis. And Mahaprabhu will go and visit him. Sri Rupa and Sanatan will also stay there when they will visit Jagannath Puri. And since they were not somehow, according to social sensibilities, able to enter Jagannath Mandir, the dancing Jagannath, Mahaprabhu himself, will come daily to visit them and bring them Jagannath Prasad and share with them, and so on and so forth. So Haridas will chant in this way with extreme humility, even despite so many obstacles. It is described as also this lila when he was taken to be beaten in like 22 markets, if I'm not mistaken, till death, because the Muslim rulers didn't like that this born Muslim converted to Hinduism and now is chanting this Hindu names, so to say, in their consideration. So they say, we'll beat you till you stop chanting. And Haridasa Thakura will say things like, even if you cut my body into pieces, I won't stop chanting. That's my determination. You can just deconstruct my whole body atom per atom, and still I will continue chanting. So anyhow, that's why he's known as Namacharya, among other things. So going to the festival in itself that we are celebrating today, this festival of death and life, of course. Haridasa Thakura, he's in his final days. He was considerably elder than almost every other associate of Mahaprabhu, Mahaprabhu himself. So he was not very healthy in terms of physical health. So he was sick one day, and Mahaprabhu will go and visit him like he used to do every single day. He had his daily schedule, and part of the schedule was Siddhabakul visiting Haridas, darshan of Haridas. So he will find Haridasa Thakura weak, like emaciated, like sick. And Mahaprabhu said, what's going on? Are you okay? You are not so good. You should chant less, Mahaprabhu said. Imagine, Mahaprabhu was the epitome of chanting. He's telling to Haridasa Thakura, like, you're chanting too much. So to say, of course. No? And Haridasa Thakura said, don't cheat me, please. No, don't ask me that. So, but what's going on? You are sick. Can you ascertain which is the sickness? Mahaprabhu is asking to Haridasa Thakura. He said, yeah, I know which is the sickness. So what's the sickness? Haridasa Thakura said, the sickness is that I cannot finish my prescribed number of rounds. He said, because of this health situation, he cannot finish his daily 192 rounds. So he will reply from that place of commitment with his vows, deep humility. And as the conversation ensues between Mahaprabhu and Haridasa Thakura, also Haridasa Thakura tells to Mahaprabhu, I know that, oh Prabhu, I know that your Leela is reaching a close soon. Now here we are at the end of Gaur Leela, the Antya Leela also. The last years of Mahaprabhu, not only of Haridasa Thakura. So Haridasa Thakura said, I can intuit that your Leela is coming to an end, that you are retiring your presence from this world. And he says, and I don't want to see that Leela. No, I don't want to witness that. That's too much for me. So basically he's requesting to him, please allow me to leave this body before you leave yours, so to say. Give me that blessing, Haridasa Thakura is saying, and allow me to leave this body while contemplating your lotus face. That's how I want to leave this body, having you in front of me, having your darshan. So Mahaprabhu is hearing that from Haridasa Thakura, and somehow he's mixed feelings, so to say. He's sad to know this is coming. Haridasa Thakura is passing, but also he's happy to see Haridasa Thakura's love and devotion, and he fulfills his wish. He doesn't say, yes, I will do it, but he kind of looks at him in silence and returns the next day with all his associates. Because Mahaprabhu will go to visit Haridas daily by himself, or maybe with someone else, but now he's coming with his whole retinue to have darshan of Haridasa Thakura. And Chaitanya Charitamrita describes how Mahaprabhu starts to glorify Haridasa Thakura, like if he will have 5 mouths. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami say. Like Rupa Goswami the other day was praying, give me more tongues, give me more ears. Mahaprabhu here is invoking, 5, in some way, 5 tongues or more to sing the glories. I'm finding it's not enough. This is not enough. No. There's nothing that I can say that is enough about the glories of Haridasa Thakura. So Haridasa Thakura is sitting, again, this is a few minutes before his passing. So he's seeing Mahaprabhu, all his associates, and he's realizing, okay, my Prabhu is fulfilling my wish. He's coming not only himself to give me his darshan, but he's bringing all his associates, because he's not separate from him. That's an important point. Haridasa Thakura told him, I want to die seeing you. And Mahaprabhu replied, bringing all his associates with him. Like implying, between me and them, there's no difference. No? This is similar to when the Kasi, chant Kasi, when we know Mahaprabhu came with all Nadia, basically, to the doors of the chant Kasi's house, and eventually he was entering into his inner quarters with a few associates. And Chant Kasi wanted to reveal to Mahaprabhu the dream he had, as you may recall, with Nrsimhadev. Nrsimhadev appeared in a dream to him and like opened his chest and said, do not ever again break a mridanga, because that's my favorite instrument. But before sharing the dream, Chandkasi told to Mahaprabhu, I need to share you something very private. So can we speak the two of us only? And Mahaprabhu was with some associates, and he told Chandkasi, we are talking in private. They are not different from me. And there's nothing I have private to them. They are my heart, I am their heart. Sadabo hridayam mayam sadunam hridayam tuham jananti anagapi. That's the Bhagavatam. Krishna is saying, Bhagavan is saying, again, that's the last verse of the sequence that we mentioned the other day, starting with the Ham Bhakta Paradi, no? The last one is this one. So then Bhagavan is saying, I'm in the heart of my devotees are in my heart. Or basically he's saying, they are my heart, I am their heart. No? Our hearts have melted. So Mahaprabhu is telling to the Kasi, there's no need for them to leave because they are my heart, I am their heart. So in the same way now, Haridasa Thakura asked Mahaprabhu, allow me to live having your darshan. Mahaprabhu brings who he is, how he shows how my associates make me who I am, basically, as we were talking these days. According to the love of certain associate, Bhagavan appears in a certain way. So Mahaprabhu brings all his associates, and Haridasa Thakura, in deep humility, he starts to take the dust from the feet of each one of those associates, and to put that on his head, one after one after one, honoring each one of these extensions of the heart of Mahaprabhu, basically. And then it is said that he fixed his eyes on Sri Gaur Hari, Sriman Mahaprabhu, like a bumblebee. It is said, like on the lotus of Mahaprabhu's face, because as you may have heard, all the limbs of Bhagavan many times have described as lotus-like. He has lotus feet, lotus face, lotus hands, lotus navel. Everything is lotus-like. It seems that it's in the world, but it's growing beyond that, flourishing beyond that. So it is said that Haridasa Thakura looks at Mahaprabhu and then takes his feet and puts them in his heart. And Mahaprabhu, of course, allows all this to happen because this is the fulfilling of the wish he requested the day before. Haridasa Thakura is enthroning, so to say, symbolically enthroning the 2 feet of his Lord in his heart, installing them, establishing them there, and starting to sing the name of Mahaprabhu in loud voice, like God, yeah, and crying deeply and singing in that place. And in that precise moment, Haridasa Thakura passes away. In that unique situation, in that unique moment, by his own wish. He had the power to choose when to leave his body, like a very great mystic personality. So it is described in Chaitanya Charitamrita that at that moment, on Haridasa Thakura's voluntary passing away, everyone was reminded of the passing of Bhishma, the great grandsire Bhishma, as it is described in the Mahabharata. Also, he was, as you know, the different situation, but he chose when to leave his body. That's the point. He was on the bed of arrows, as you may recall, but he passed away looking at Krishna also, like absorbed in him. He was waiting for Krishna to come. And here there's something interesting in connection to Bhishma, if I may share, which is this word Uttarayana. Uttarayana is basically the sun's 6-month northern orbit, where the sun is moving in that direction. That lasts for 6 months toward the north. So the first day that begins, that is called Uttarayana. So it is in the Gita also, Krishna described this moment like, for a yogi, they try to plan their death in that moment that will warranty like access to higher realms. So in the Bhagavatam, it is described that Bhishma was waiting for Uttarayan to leave his body, and some people will ask, but Bhishma is not a yogi, like normal. He's a Bhutan Bhakta. He doesn't need to A devotee doesn't need even to plan his death, so to say, because he's already fully engaged in bhakti. So whatever moment he or she passes away, that will be the most blessed moment. It's not that I need to wait for an auspicious constellation, so I leave my body in a relatively good moment and I don't become degraded, whatever. So Bhishma doesn't need that. So why he was waiting for Uttarayan? So what our acharyas explain is that there's another meaning for Uttarayan. No? So Uttarayan means also he who took shelter in Uttara. Uttara is Parikshit Maharaj's mother. Ayana means he who took shelter, and Uttara is the mother of Parikshit. As you may know, when Parikshit was in the womb of Uttara, there was, how to say, like in Brahmastra sent by Ashwatam to kill Parikshit in the womb, to kill the last descendant of the dynasty. And Krishna entered into the womb of Uttara. Again, he who took shelter in Uttara is Krishna. So, and he appeared, and as we know, he protected Parikshit. Parikshit has his first darshan of Krishna in the womb. That's pretty interesting. But the point is here, Bhishma was waiting for Uttarayan. But Uttarayan is another name for Krishna. So he was not waiting for an auspicious constellation. He was waiting for having the darshan of Krishna, and then he passed away. That's the very same thing that Haridasa Thakura did here. But this is just the beginning of the celebration. Now Mahaprabhu sees that Haridasa Thakura has passed, and Mahaprabhu takes Haridasa Thakura's body, going against all the social conventions of the time. Now, Mahaprabhu was Hindu, Brahmin, sannyasi. So according to the social norms of the time, you wouldn't touch a Muslim, so to say. Again, this is a relative consideration, and Mahaprabhu came to break all those considerations that were prevailing. So Mahaprabhu did not only touch the body of Haridasa Thakura, but he took it and embraced, took it on his lap, and started to dance. There are a few very nice paintings of Mahaprabhu dancing in Sankirtan with the body of Haridasa Thakura. Him considering like blessed by having been in touch with that body, which is no longer to be seen as a material body, but is a fully spiritualized, transcendental body. So that's not only it. Then Mahaprabhu walked in procession in Sankirtan towards the ocean in Jagannath Puri, and he bathed Haridasa Thakura's body in the ocean. In the same ocean he will have bathed so many times. So for us, the ocean is not merely the ocean, but it's a tirtha, it's a sacred place. So when so when the devotees go to Jagannath Puri, they go to the ocean, but that's again not the ocean. It's not so much like let's go to the beach and surf a little bit, but as Krishna Chandra Prabhu mentioned, that's contact Charanamrita, because it's the same place where Sriman Gaur Sundar and all his associates will bathe and perform watery pastimes and so on. So, and Mahaprabhu, in his humility, he said, from now on, this ocean is a great tirtha. Of course, it was already a great tirtha because he already bathed there, but he himself didn't he didn't take himself too seriously. But now he said, now that Haridasa Thakura has bathed here, this ocean is a great tirtha. And all the devotees got closer to the water that was like dripping from Haridasa Thakura's body, and they were like drinking it, like competing to get the Charnamrita in its own way. So this is an important point also to begin with, that Mahaprabhu is mentioning how worshipable can become the body. I mean, in one sense we say we are not this body, but in another sense we will say, if you receive sadhaka deha from Sri Guru, which means the body of a practitioner, sadhaka means someone who engages in sadhana. So when one receives initiation, one receives a new sense of identity, a new body, so to say. Although externally may seem the same, In our tradition, it will say you have received the sadhaka deha, the body of a practitioner. And the more you engage in sadhana, that sadhaka deha becomes spiritualized and is no longer to be seen as material. And it becomes worshipful for Krishna himself. That's what is saying Chaitanya Charitamrita. Diksha Kali Bhakta Kari Atma Samarpana. Te Kari Krishna Kari Atma San. So Krishna is saying, Diksha Kali, in the moment of Diksha, when one has given oneself, one has made of one's own self an offering to Bhagavan, Krishna takes that person and that body as his own self. Like he reciprocates, as Krishna Chandra Prabhu was saying these days, Ananya Mamata Vishnu Mamata Prema Sangata. So he will, as we will serve Krishna, everything in relation to him, in the similar way Krishna is reciprocating, not only with the devotee, but with whatever is related to that person, becomes sacred and spiritualized. I have one section here, if you give me 1 minute, because I quote one purport from Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, where he describes how the spiritualization of the sadhaka deha happens gradually. So that's interesting. This is a commentary that he shares in Bhagavatam, 10th canto, 10th canto, chapter 29, verse 11. So, Rasa Panchadhyaya. So he says, when one reaches the stage of Prem, divine love, one's body is completely spiritualized, and no mundane portion remains. So that's no mundane portion remains. It's totally, each pore of the body has been like affected by bhakti samskars. Something similar is said in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Antya-lila, chapter 4, verses 191 to 193, just in case. And Mahaprabhu is saying,
this is the verse Atma.
Is one, but there are two more in connection. Yeah, so I will read the whole section. So Mahaprabhu says, the body of a devotee is never material. It is considered to be transcendental, full of spiritual bliss. Now comes the verse that I quoted. At the time of initiation, when a devotee fully surrenders unto the service of the Lord, Krishna makes him as spiritual as himself. When the devotee's body is in this way transformed into a spiritual existence, the devotee in that transcendental body renders service to the lotus feet of the Lord. So,
which page is that in your book?
168.
And which verses is from Rasa Panchadhyaya?
10, 29, 11. This is more detailed, the description. He will say that in the beginning, of course, you are a sadhaka, so you're not fully spiritualized yet. So he will speak like the spiritualization is happening like gradually. The more you engage in bhajan, the more spiritual your body becomes. And I would like to share one more paragraph that I write in connection to this. This page 108. You will remember that one. So it says, while we have repeatedly heard that we are not this body, in a deeper sense, we could come full circle and say that we actually are this body. The process of transfiguration first begins with the sadhaka deha.
erstmal mit dem Sadhaka, dass dieser Körper eingesetzt wird in Sadhana.
or the practitioner's body that Gaudiya Vaishnavas receive during spiritual initiation.
Körper, der ein Gaudiya Vaishnava bekommt zur Zeitpunkt der Initiation, das ist wie der Anstoß.
And this culminates with the Siddha Deha,
Und das verwandelt sich mehr und mehr hin zum Siddha-Deha, zum ewigen spirituellen Körper.
or that moment when our Sadhaka Deha
Der Sadhaka-Deha
becomes fully spiritualized,
wird völlig spiritualisiert
unaccomplished through the gift of divine grace.
und wird perfektioniert durch die Gnade also durch die heilige Gnade.
So considering this,
Und das verstehen,
we have the right to say
haben wir das Recht zu sagen,
that we are this body,
wir sind der Körper.
since we are this Sadhaka Deha,
Wir sind dieser Sadhaka-Deha,
which has the potential of
der hat Potenzial,
attaining full consummation
eine volle Verreifung zu werden.
and becoming us for eternity.
Und so können wir wie einsinken in den ewigen spirituellen Körper, den wir sind. In der spirituellen Welt sind wir der Körper.
Since this practitioner's body is a gift,
Dieser Körper, in dem wir Sadhana machen, praktizieren wir dieser Geschenk.
it's a gift bestowed upon us during the initiation rite.
Und das wird wie zur Zeitpunkt der Einweihung offeriert.
Our present body is in this way a gift
Körper ist
which
ein
does
Geschenk.
not belong to us,
Der gehört uns überhaupt nicht.
but to the divine,
Der gehört dem Göttlichen.
and which we should therefore take care of
Und wir sollten uns deshalb genau wie können
and even venerate.
und verehren sogar.
So I try to take the situation to another section there, because generally again we may think we are not this body, this is bad, this is an obstacle, but in the context of bhakti we are no longer to see the body as something bad, but we have a sadhaka deha now, and this sadhaka deha is a gift that I was given. So if I'm given a gift, I have to take care of that. And when that sadhaka deha is fully spiritualized, we will be somehow, that body will appear in a similar form in Nitya Navadvip.
Ja, die Form, wo wir als Sadhaka-Deha haben, die wird auch im Mittelmeerkens geschehen.
Das heißt Sadhaka-Deha genau auf Deutsch.
Sadhaka-Deha ist der Körper, in dem wir Sadhana ausführen.
So this is what here Mahaprabhu is showing, basically by embracing and dancing and worshipping Haridasa Thakura's body. And then after this, what does Mahaprabhu does? He will put Haridasa Thakura's body in samadhi, what we call. Which is another way to indicate in this fully spiritualized body, or somehow that person is appearing eternally and serving. That's why the body is put into salt to preserve the body, to indicate in an identity that resembles this one in Nitya Navadvip, that person is serving for eternity. So Mahaprabhu is putting Haridasa Thakura's body. He himself is making the hole in the earth. He's doing everything. He's putting the body with remnants from Jagannath. He's decorating the body. He's covering. He starts to circumambulate. You can visit the Samadhi of Haridasa Thakura in Jagannath Puri if you're there. It's a very beautiful place. So you can he circumambulated the Samadhi, and he started to dance. And finally, he started to go and beg prasad from the different markets and places where they had Jagannath Mahaprasad. Mahaprabhu went and did Madhukari to organize a big festival to celebrate Haridasa Thakura's disappearance. So Mahaprabhu himself was dealing with all the details of this event, as you can see. Taking the body, bathing it, making the hole, putting it in samadhis, dancing, circumambulating, begging the prasad. And he started to serve himself the prasad to everyone, to all the present ones. He himself organized the whole Tirobhav Mahotsav, so to say. And it is said that Mahaprabhu will serve prasad like to each person, like for 5, the quantity for 5 people, he will give to one person only. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's the grace of Mahaprabhu. No? Prasad also means grace. So one way of symbolize grace is in the way of food, nourishing. No? Prasad, the word prasad means for us food and means grace at the same time. So Mahaprabhu's leelas, there are many leelas of Mahaprabhu with food, and all of them are very overflowing. No? He never will serve you like 3 grains of rice and why so little? So he will like drown you in grace, drown you in prasad. So he will continue serve. He will serve for 5, but then somehow his associate will eat all that, and he will come with more and more, till all of them were akanta. Now this is the Bengali expression, akanta, which means up to the neck. Like sometimes in India, if they want to serve more, you will do like this on a plate. That's what I learned the first time I went, because I didn't know that, and they will keep putting prasad. I was like, I don't want more, but I was like this, and they will keep putting. So I learned you have to do like this. But another one is like this, no? Akanta. Up to the neck. And it's funny, I remember, this brings me one funny memory. I was in Jagannath Puri 2 years ago visiting one ashram, very nice ashram of one sannyasi called Bhakti Parvat Muni Maharaj. He's a disciple of Bhakti Sri Rup Siddhanti Maharaj. And he has an ashram 1 block from Haridasa Thakura Samadhi. So many times I generally stay there when I go to Puri. And once he was serving me Jagannath Mahaprasad, Govardhan standard, no? So I did my best to finish the whole plate, similar to the quantity that Krishna Chandra serves me for lunch or something. And I finished, and at one point I look at him and say, because he wants to serve more, and I was like, akanta Maharaj, akanta. And he tells me, no. He tells me, do you know what's akanta, Maharaj? I say, what's akanta? It means that you open your mouth and you put your finger and you can touch the food that you have eaten. That's a kanta. And he said, you are not a kanta now. He started to put more. So now you know what's a kanta. Really up to the neck and more, probably. So Mahaprabhu was served with that abundance. Again, he was celebrating Haridasa Thakura. He was overflowing of love for Haridasa Thakura. So his overflowing took the form of the overflowing of prasad, the overflowing of grace. So after everyone was literally a kanta, Mahaprabhu decorated each devotee with garland, with chandan. He ornamented everyone. He was ecstatic celebrating Haridasa Thakura. And he concluded the whole Tirobhav Mahotsav by pronouncing a very solemn blessing for all the ones who were present in that festival. So you want to hear Mahaprabhu's blessing? Yes. You are now present in that festival, so you're included in Mahaprabhu's festival. So I'll read this. These are a few verses coming from Chaitanya Charitamrita. So Mahaprabhu is saying like this. Anyone who has seen the festival of Sri Haridasa Thakur's passing away, anyone who has chanted and danced here, anyone who has offered sand on the body of Haridasa Thakur, and they were putting it in Samadhi, and anyone who has joined this festival to partake of the prasadam, any of them will achieve the favor of Krishna very soon. There is such wonderful power in seeing Haridasa Thakur. So now Mahaprabhu is speaking about his own darshan of Haridasa Thakur. Be merciful upon me. Krishna gave me the association of Haridasa Thakur. But being independent in his desires.
Can you repeat that last part?
Yes. Being merciful upon me,
Hij is zo gnädig, zei zu mir, dass mir Gemeinschaft für Haridasa Thakura geschenkt hat.
Mahaprabhu said das Gott selber.
He's telling that to Krishna.
No.
No,
He's
no.
telling that to the
To the
devotees.
devotees.
Mahaprabhu is speaking in Bhakta Bhava as a devotee, no? He's not talking about Krishna. So he's saying, being merciful upon me, Krishna gave me the association of Haridasa Thakura. But now he says, being independent in his desires,
Krishna so unabhängig ist, weiß ich nicht.
he has now broken that
Hat
association.
mir die Gemeinschaft wieder weggenommen.
When Haridasa Thakura wanted to leave this material world,
Das Vater die Welt hat er verlassen.
it was not within my power to stop him.
Ist es in all meine Freiheit, nicht in meiner Freiheit gewesen, ihn zurückzuhalten.
Simply by his will,
Nur durch seinen Willen
Haridasa Thakura could give up his life and go away.
ist Haridasa Thakura gegangen, zurück in die spirituelle
E-
Welt.
Exactly like Bhishma,
Genau wie Bhishma im Srimad
who previously died simply by his own desire.
Und er hat auch die Kraft gehabt, so Zeit
As we have
so
heard-
selber zu wählen.
As we have heard from Shastra.
So wie die Schrift gehört.
Haridasa Thakura was the crown jewel on the head of this world.
Das Krone Juwel für die ganze Welt gewesen, vom Kopf dieser Welt.
Without him,
Aber ohne Haridasa
this world is now bereft of its valuable jewel.
jetzt ist alle Wert von dieser Welt entschwunden.
So now Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami said, then Mahaprabhu then told everyone,
Chaitanya Mahaprabhu hat allen gesagt,
he says, say all glories to Haridasa Thakura
bitte rüfet
and chant the
Haridasa Thakura
and chant the holy name of Hari.
und singet die heilige Namen von Hari.
And saying this, he personally, Mahaprabhu, began to dance again.
Chaitanya Mahaprabhu hat angefangen zu tanzen.
So in the same way, we are inviting all of you. Haridasa Thakura ki
Ki
jai.
jai.
Srila Haridasa Thakura ki jai. Sri Thakur Haridas Mahotsav Titi ki jai. Gaur Preman. Hari.
It's very
We have the ocean in Puri sounding in the background.
it's very interesting that when you read how when Brahma had the darshan of Gauranga in Antardvip thousands of years back, when he fainted, he had the samskara of Krishna's feet on his head. So like this samskara stayed in him, and when Haridasa Thakura was laying on the floor and said, if I ask a blessing, can you provide? And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is crying and said, whatever you desire is an order for me. I cannot do anything else than provide you. And then he said, I want to leave. And like the old samskara from that time came back with your feet.
Mhm.
Seeing your feet just there. It was just came to me how thousands of years back the samskara was already put.
Radha Madhaprabhu.
Because of all this endeavor and chanting and so on, but finally it was of no use because he did not go back to Godhead, he went back to his position as Brahma. What was the use of all this chanting?
Yes.
Purva Paksha is coming
Weil
now.
er alle so viel chanted hat, so eine Bemühung gemacht hat, aber nachher ist er doch wieder zurück auf den Posten von Brahma. Was ist also der Nutzen von all diesen spirituellen Bemühungen? Liebe Freunde, schlafen lieber. Better take rest, why not to make such an endeavor?
So now
Das hat
Radha,
er nicht gesagt. Das ist gerade mal.
Radha Mother ruined the whole celebration now.
No. No, he makes it on a higher platform.
He's taking on to a new level. Yes, we mentioned that Bhaktivinoda Thakur describes that after attaining the birth of Haridasa Thakura, he continues as Brahma till the end of his life, but that's not the same Brahma. It's the same Brahma, but it's not the same experience that was before being Haridasa Thakura. So it's from a completely different place. So I will say that in that sense, it's not that it's useless, of course, I'm not saying that you are saying that it's useless, but it's just that he continues finishing that particular period because as we mentioned, he can take a holiday or a weekend, but still he has a few years to go. But now it's with the full mercy of Mahaprabhu, with the full realization and insight about his eternal participation. So that's the Brahma that we are having now, basically. It's completely enlightened Brahma, inspired Brahma. So in one sense, he continues performing those functions, but in another sense, he's completely somewhere else, so to say.
Does this have an impact on the universe if the president of the universe is a devotee or not?
I mean, you're asking if it has an impact of the universe
On
that
the universe.
on the universe
Because
that
like if-
Brahma is in the situation I've just described, or in general you're going to a president in a country.
No, in this case, because you said before, he said it has no use, but so I was wondering because he said so there's no use because you described Brahma as the president of the universe. He has an important position. So does it has an impact on the universe or on the people,
On all the
on
souls.
us living in this universe, if the controller of the universe is a non-devotee or a devotee?
I mean, the control of the universe is always a devotee. I mean,
Before it was different.
yeah, but well, he was not a non-devotee. Brahma is always a devotee, but now he's a devotee from a very
Yeah.
unique place. So yes, for sure, it has an impact on the universe.
And what is that impact?
I mean, how can we say what is that impact? I will say that it has an impact. Like so many things are influencing us, and we cannot say what is that influence. But I mean, everything is interrelated, so there's so much influence going on, but we may not be able to say this is the influence or this is the influence. But there's an influence to have a Brahma in such an ecstatic experience. So whether we cannot fully ascertain what's the influence, we know there is, and we have to take advantage of that. Yeah.
Maybe, can I just, a thought came to Radha Madhava.
Yeah.
Just a few days ago, we were reflecting on Vamandev's Leela, how Bali Maharaj, after surrendering, normally people think, now I surrender and everything should be fine. Sometimes even devotees say, now I surrendered, and when I start surrendering, everything went down. My job was bad and my earning was bad. Once Narada approached Krishna, this is in Mahabharata, and he said, it's very interesting, your devotees. Since the Pandavas became your bhaktas, it went down. They lost the kingdom, they lost a wife, they lost, they had to be mendicants in the forest, and they were tortured, and many attempts to be killed. But the interesting thing is, Krishna, that their love towards you increased. It didn't, what happens in your devotee? Oh, this happened, but my love increased. This shows it's completely disconnected. So, and when Bali Maharaj surrendered, Vamandev bound him up and threw him down some lower place. But it's not that he said, hey, I surrender to you, now you do this to me. He was in bliss. He said, I offered myself. Now you can do whatever you want. So it's like the unconditional nature of divine love. It's there. And I like it very much. In Buddhism, they say, what happened before enlightenment? Washing the potatoes. And what happened after enlightenment? Washing the potato. So it's something very nice. So, after the whole change of his consciousness to a Shuddha Bhakta, what happened? He continues the very same thing. So it also means that you can do it in this world.
Yeah.
You know, I don't have to be somewhere else. But the we want to change the consciousness, and we don't want to change the circumstance.
Ja.
So it's not so bad to go to Brahmaloka.
Thank you. Yes, as we spoke, they say bhakti is sadhya, bhakti is sadhana, and sadhya. So bhakti is a practice, bhakti is the goal. If you are fully situated in bhakti, you don't care where you are, basically. Even Brahmalok, even here, even there, as you mentioned, Sutala, whatever, no? So.
Brahmalok means having association with Haridasa Thakura.
Sorry?
Going to Brahmaloka means being in association.
We can go, Radhamala. Why not? We can pay a stop on our way to somewhere else, and that's for sure. That's a very powerful influence for those in Brahmalok. But I will say it extends to so many other directions. Yes, depends. Yes, of course.
One day of Brahma appears Krishna, and in one day also Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appears on a daily basis. So how is this to understand? Like the Brahma, is this also above Anuvad? Like actually he's having darshan of Krishna and he's having darshan of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu daily, because they appear once in a day. So every day he has this, but on every day from new on, he feels like, oh, my life went. Is this his Dainya Bhav? That every day he feels like, oh, my half of my life passed and how I'm continuing my life. And then he has darshan of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Krishna, and he's in bliss. So this is a practice on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm.
Although he has darshan of Mahaprabhu every day, he still feels on the next day the same. This can be concluded.
Yeah, I like the way you presented that. Thank you. Yeah, now you have to translate.
Yes.
They're waiting for your realization.
It's so strange to translate oneself. Ich habe gefragt, wie kann man das so sehen? Also Krishna erscheint ja ähnlich am Tag von Brahma. Und am gleichen Tag erscheint nachher auch Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Und ist das nachher eine Stimmung, die er in sich trägt, jeden Tag aufs Neue? Oh nein, was habe ich mit meinem Leben gemacht? Weil er hat ja jeden Tag, er hat ja Darshan von Krishna und Mahaprabhu jeden Tag. Und trotzdem fühlt er sich an diesem Tag, jetzt in dieser Zeit, wo wir sind, ist auch Krishna und Mahaprabhu gekommen und er hat die Stimmung gehabt, wie, hey, ich habe mein halbes Leben verbraten, was mache ich jetzt? Und nachher mit der Darshan von Mahaprabhu und er fühlt sich gut und nachher am nächsten Tag findet er tiefer Widerstand. Das heisst, er hat die Sharanagati-Stimmung jeden Tag.
Okay.
Und ob man das so sehen
My mother wrote a message here saying, such a beautiful place. She's in the
I
background.
was wondering a few days ago if your mom is here following you.
Yeah, she's always,
Hola.
she's only seen one frame of the whole picture. So, I'll be publishing a few more pictures these days, Mom, so you will see them. She doesn't speak English. I have to speak in Spanish. Voy a publicar algunas fotos en estos días. No hay problema más del lugar. Okay. So 1 hour and a half, we can put the kata to rest and continue our meditation in Thakur Haridas on the Festival of Death today. Thank you so much. And Sri Sachinandan Gaur Hari ki jai, Sri Harinam Prabhu ki jai, Sri Sri Gaur Gadadhar ji ki jai, Sri Sri Radha Govinda ji ki jai, Tirobab Mahotsav Tithi Sri Haridasa Thakura ki jai, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Gaur Premanand. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyev cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Gaur Hari Bol.